Why does it happen so often, in your opinion, that rock bands completely overlook the importance of bass? Why does that happen?
I have absolutely no fucking idea. I mean, I, it's not something that it hasn't always been like this. It's something that happened in the 1980s.
Hmm.
You know, when guitars and vocals became very, very loud. I mean, as if they weren't already.
Mm-hmm.
But like the balance of, I mean, I think that you'd have to sit and think about it for a little while. But if you listen to records through, I guess through about 4 decades, you can start to hear there's a definite shift
Mm-hmm.
in terms of balances. I mean, frankly, I think cocaine had a lot to do with it as well because I listened to records where I actually know that people were doing cocaine while they were making them.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had conversations with a couple of people who are on some records like that, and they're just laughing about how things wound up sounding because they were so gacked up. They had no idea what everything just sounded
That's
so dull, and they
hilarious.
were cranking up all the high end, and all the stuff that's playing in the mid and treble ranges, and completely suppressing like the groove and the bass, and everything else. But again, you go back to Led Zeppelin records, you go back to Beatles records, the bass and drums are heavy. They're
Mm-hmm.
loud. I mean, they're way out in front, but you could position guitars in a way on those records where you'd still hear them. In fact, they'd still be loud and you didn't feel that you were missing anything. Like the bass and drums on a song like Whole Lotta Love, for example,
Mm-hmm.
they're loud as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But you can hear the guitar. All you think about is
Yeah, yeah.
when I sing it like that, it's in the throaty sound. So you're thinking of a guitar riff. You're not thinking of a bass. You know, People just got this idea that they had to make guitars louder and louder and louder and louder. And the bass and the drums just started to recede further and further. Bass is and will always be one of the most important instruments in a rock combo. There's no question about it. I mean, history bears that out. If
Mm-hmm.
you tuck bass, if you make it go away, you just lose all the balls. Bass is kind of like the bridge. It's sort of like the glue between all the instruments. And again, if the bassist is actually playing melodies, and Ben played a lot of melodic stuff on Superunknown, his counterpoint for some of those songs is like Fell on Black Days, for example,
Mm-hmm.
on that chorus,
Mm-hmm.
the first chorus where he plays that moving line. Who would think of doing something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's so completely out of character, for anyone else that I could have thought of to come up with a line like that. But it's fantastic. I don't know how he managed to come up with a bass line that's moving like that, is kind of dissonant, and is fighting harmonically with some of the instruments, but doesn't take your focus off the vocal.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous. But if we tucked that bass, you would have never heard that,
Yeah.
And frankly, it would have made the song flatter.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason why you don't want to tuck the bass.
Yeah. I think in general Ben's pretty underrated.
I agree with you. He's really overlooked and he shouldn't be. He's one of the best bass players I've ever worked with. And his compositional stuff is just phenomenal. And what he brought to that band, in terms of not only in terms of songs, but in terms of overall vibe, is inestimable. I mean, I think, the band was always, greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, as great as each of the individual people were,
Mm-hmm.
and people look at it and think, Soundgarden is Chris. And it's like Chris had a solo career, and the stuff that he did in the solo career was fine, sure. But personally, I wouldn't put it up against anything that he did with Soundgarden. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Soundgarden was very special, and it was because of the chemistry of those four guys together.
You
That's
know,
my feeling anyway.